See you now. Nobody know. Tell me something good. When I keep last time, I got something for you. I gotta call you. This is still your wisdom.
My number changed.
Never change, so this should be it then. That's it.
I found one.
It was good.
People say we can't go back to the 70s, but we can bring that love we had in the 70s back. We can't bring the way we used to beat niggas up in the 70s back, but we can bring the love that we had back. You know, I remember, man, we had a house full of guards, man.
I give you a call. Oh, okay.
Eating together,
Yeah.
going through lessons together, sharing clothes together. You know, back then, man, it was like, really, what I want for myself, I want for my brother. You know, back then, man, we really had the love. We gotta bring that love back. We got to.
You know what's missing?
Tell me what.
The women.
You're right.
The earth. Not women.
The earth.
And everybody talks about the babies of the greatest. But if you really understood what you're saying, that the babies of the greatest, teach the babies are the best part, brothers would be more discerning of the women they put those babies in. Okay? They would be discerning of who they put those babies in. If she is not taught, she cannot teach your baby.
Facts.
Okay? And your babies are not going to know. And what you saw in the 70s, why you saw a sea of babies, is you saw a sea of black women. You saw a sea of earth. There was no way that you were coming to a universal parliament and you were getting on the D train, the A train, whatever. I used to come from the desert. Okay? You get on that D train, whichever one, I took. Usually it was the D train for my connection. Even if you didn't know those people, when you got on at that station, you knew them by the time you got on to 125th Street.
It's a fact.
When you were going to the parliament, you were going together. It was a sea of understanding cultures. The sisters were covered. You could tell who was there and who was not. And now, you really can't. You really can't. Unless they open their mouth. And then sometimes you can. Okay? But the reality is that brothers do not, what I really feel, and this is my opinion, and the world according to Queen Khalifa, I may be wrong. However, a black man, I had this discussion with my ex-guard, and I said to him, a black man that truly understands who he is, because to me, the majority of brothers don't fully understand their power. They do not understand their existence. Because if they do, they would carry themselves with the standard and the qualification that goes with that. They would have certain standards, and anything that would be beneath that standard, they would not be accepting of. They would give a woman, now you're going to meet, I was 85% at one point. Okay, we were all 85%. We didn't wake up with an epiphany, the black man is God. Someone taught me, you understand? However, you give that woman an expiration. You give her a grace period. You understand? This is my culture. This is what I am about. If you are going to be with me, this is what you need to be about also, because you have to teach my baby. Okay? You cannot remain mentally dead and teach my, you can't teach God's babies if you're mentally dead. You understand? But these brothers are with these sisters, 20 years later you're complaining, and I said to my ex-girlfriend, I'm gonna put them on the spot. I said, when did you realize she was a Negro? Before I asked you such a name. I said, here's what you should have thought. Here's what your thought process should have been. Lead her before you breed her. You understand? Teach her, because fruit don't grow in troubled land.
Nope.
Fruit don't grow in troubled land. If you talk about earth appreciation, and you truly understand, we're talking earth, we're not talking moon, we're not talking asteroid, because there's many celestial bodies that circumnavigate the sun. Not all of them are planets, not all of them have atmosphere, and not all of them sustain life.
That's right.
Now, when we talk about that third planet from the sun, we're talking about that one planet. We're not talking about other things that you've got going by, you understand, that's catching your attention, catching that magnetic, but can't reflect it. It's there, but it can't reflect it. You understand? It can't reflect it. Many of these brothers, the women they have are asteroids, if they but knew. An asteroid is not a planet. An asteroid is a rocky formation. It revolves around the sun. It has no atmosphere. It's the Earth's atmosphere that allows it to actually sustain life. It's that atmosphere that water cannot go above. That gaseous, it's natural gases and you know, elements that are in that belt, that belt that is around the earth. And that is what allows the sun's rays to actually cause growth on the planet. That's what allows the earth to sustain life. An asteroid has none of that. There is no life on an asteroid. And generally with asteroids, you know, the asteroids, meteors, or whatever, they end up colliding with the Earth. Generally, it's not cataclysmic. There's times that there have been cataclysmic, you know, events where these asteroids actually come into the Earth's atmosphere and collide with the planet. Me, my thing is, I'm not trying to collide with any of these, you know, other world beings. I will not be with a brother, and your woman is at 85%. Because she's not of this culture, there's going to be a clash. And I'm not trying to see what happens when worlds collide. Because I'm preparing for war and constant peace, and I'd rather not deal with that.
Right.
You understand? Because if you've got an 85% at home, that was your choice.
Right.
That was your choice. So what is in your mind that this is what you have, and then you want to say, where's the babies at the parliament? Where's your earth? Where's your earth? You've got these women that are not assisting you in nation building. The woman, the black woman, is the black man's helper. Without getting into the high science and all of that, I was taught many, many years ago that the black man, whose proper name is Allah, was self-created. He always existed, and I'm not trying to get into that beginning which never began and became the sun. But basically, the energy that created, the energy and the force that came together and became that black man who is Allah, who is self-created. The next act that he did was creating his second self. Not out of need, but because it was his desire to have a being that bare witness to his force and power, and like him, could bring forth life out of triple darkness, the triple darkness of the womb. Now, if you truly understand this as a black man, and this black woman is your helper, she is the being who bears witness to who you are. Queen Queen acknowledges God. Queen recognizes the king. Why is it that as a king you don't recognize the queen? Brothers talk earth appreciation. Do you know how many sisters? There was a mass exodus at one point in the 80s. By the 90s gone, I am one of them. I went to the Nation of Islam because I said, a brother, I think what you mean as why I was in the nation. I said to keep from committing murder. And when he was going through his pictures of the gods, I said that's one of them that I was going to murder. My ex-God. You understand? I said because I got fed up of giving my all and receiving nothing. I know the degree that asked me will I set up at home waiting for this God, but I'm sitting up at home waiting for the true and living God, and I might as well be waiting for Mr. God because I'm getting hard time conversations. And I'm not being able to just call Mr. God. When I got out of the show, I had this idealistic idea that I was going to, because the brother who taught me was a friend of mine. He was like a brother. And he told me at the time, he said, I can't be your God. You're going to have to be a God. He's like, because you're my sister. Right. He said, but I can teach you. And he was teaching. And, my thing was, at the time, I had a boyfriend, my first boyfriend in the whole wide world, because my mother would not allow me to date until I was 16. And I waited. I was a good girl. And I had this boyfriend, and I got knowledge when I was going on 17, so I was still 16. And my enlightenment told me, you can't have a boyfriend that's not in the nation. You have to get a God. So I told my boyfriend that they call it being righteous. Back then, you were righteous because God is Father. And he knew about the Father Son because at that time, the Father Son had a very strong presence in every New York high school. Some of the junior high schools even, but definitely every single high school. There was, he went to Bayside, I went to John Baptist. Okay. And there were gods and earths in every one of those high schools. You understand? There were some of them that were even in the parochial Catholic school. You understand? People that got knowledge or so, even though their parents were paying for them to go to a private school. Christ the King. There were gods that went there. Because my cousin was there. He wasn't God, but there were gods that went there. Now, I had to tell him, well, I'm coming from righteous, I left the boyfriend, and, I'm going to get a God at some point. You understand? But my thought was that I was going to have this, this everlasting love with one God. That was my idealistic thought. Because I always was the type of person, and I think it's because of my childhood. I grew up in foster care, going from, foster home to foster home. And so what I wanted was stability. I wanted a family. And it didn't work out. And my poor little, idealistic views were just chewed up and spit out. I had a God at one point that would tremble me to get to an 85%, and I'm talking real tough. I wish I would have that. You understand? I went to an event, a God and Earth event, and that brother left me there, and I saw him walking off with 85. Okay? You understand? And then if you leave the God, which I did, because I wasn't seeing him, I was living on my own. I was 18 years old. I had my own apartment. I'm seeing the God at home. That's all I was seeing at the apartment. Whoever he was chasing had his attention, but his earth didn't. So I left the God. I wrote a note, a Dear John letter. I went to a law school. I gave it to my brother, I God. And I said, when he comes again, can you get that to me? He said, sure, my sister. I said, tell him I'll be in the school next week. I'm going to call, I'm going to come. But I let the brother know, if you're not here for me, what do I need you for? What do I need you for? You understand? You're supposed to be a man. And my story You understand? And some of them still do. And beautiful sisters have gone their way. Some of them have become Christians. You have quite a bit that's in the Nation of Islam, and doing very well. Because when you go into the Nation of Islam, having been a 5%, they want to put you in a leadership position. You understand? The sister captain in New York, when I went in, she wanted me to take lieutenant training. I told her, I don't want to be a woman. I just want to learn how to drill. And I thought, that, watching the sisters drill, to me, that was good. I wanted to learn how to drill. Because I'm like, beloved, you will be a lieutenant in training. And she put me over the junior MGT. I said she put me over there, and you met her daughter.
Oh, yeah.
That's what they were with. Her mother was sister captain, and I said she put me over there probably because I was the only one that could keep her younger one in check. Khadija, she's something else, But that's what, you have some sisters that became Christians, I don't understand that. That I don't understand. And I think it was just because it was there. They wanted to be a part of something, and it was there. To me, the Nation of Islam was a parallel. It didn't alter my existence. There were certain things that I did not bear witness to. I was not accustomed to praying. I did not bear witness that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was still physically alive. And you have many that did. You probably call me a hypocrite because you've got a lot of overzealous individuals that worship the Honorable Elijah Muhammad because he's a deity. You understand? Which, that's a misunderstanding. That's what you're doing. You don't even understand these people. You understand? But the idea is that for whatever reason, those sisters are no longer here. And what happened is, sisters that now come, that are interested in actually having knowledge, so because that's what drew me. And I'm glad for that. I didn't have a boyfriend that became righteous.
Right.
I was a holdout because I started hanging out with two sisters when I got to high school. Those sisters, after a while, got knowledge of them. And I wasn't, I'm like, nope. God would say, peace, I said, peace of what? What? You know what I mean? Peace of what? And, I was stiff-necked and rebellious, wearing sneakers. You couldn't see that. Everywhere I went, I had on my croquettes. And I dressed feminine and still had on those croquettes. Okay? My enlightener is the one that got me out of croquettes. He said, you are too much of a girly girl, you are too feminine to be wearing sneakers. That's for boys. You need to wear shoes. He's like, everything else you wear should be worn with shoes, not with croquettes. And so I shocked him one day, because we worked together we had a summer youth corps job in Baisley Park together. So I surprised him and came to work with shoes on. He's like, oh, so you do have shoes. I said, yes, I do have shoes. It's just more common in the park. I want to wear shoes better than they go in the park. You know what I mean? I want to go play handball. You know what I mean? But, I eventually was listening to what the gods were saying. There was a lot of gods in Bam. A lot of gods in Bam. And what struck me is when they one day mentioned that the lessons came from the mosque, that they came from the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Now when I heard that, that's what actually caught my attention. And the reason for that is because when I was smaller, I just idolized the sisters in the Nation of Islam. Because my mother, which is the strangest thing that how I got actually introduced to the Nation of Islam is from 116. My mother was a heroin addict, and she would take me and my sister got their feeding, going to shoot her heroin over around 117th Street. That's where they all hung out. Her, my father, my sister's father, the whole crew of them. That's where they hung out. And we would see, you know, the sisters, and I would go, the first carrot cake I ever ate was from the bakery on 116th Street. And to me, they looked like angels. And that's where I heard about Elijah Muhammad. But then as I got older, and when the messenger passed away, and the nation changed, because also I had friends. I went to school. I don't know if you've ever heard of this brother, Lance Shabazz.
Yeah, I know that.
He's very well known. I went to school for 3 years in honors class. I went to school with Lance. His sister, his brother was in my class for 3 years. So I knew them from small. And so I had an understanding that these were Muslims in, you know, Muhammad's temple. That you know, that was the most prevalent Muslim to me. Even if I had seen a Sunni, I probably would have thought that they're in Muhammad's temple too, because to me, that's what a Muslim was. When they changed, when they became Malawians, and I'm seeing these brothers, they used to be so clean-cut in the steak and take out in Jamaica, on Southern Boulevard, that they were clean-cut, now they got beards, and they're looking frowsy. They just didn't have the same refinement. So I kind of lost a little bit of the respect. And then, because I really had a very high respect for the sisters. When Muhammad Ali married that model, and I saw it in Jet magazine, I was devastated because I loved Khalil. I was like, who is she? And then you start hearing stories that, he was with her while he was with Khalil, so I'm thinking he broke Khalil's heart and he's with this woman here, So I just kind of lost respect for it. But when I heard the God talk about the lessons coming from the moms, well now, okay, well, tell me about these lessons, because now I'm hearing Elijah Muhammad, and the gods had swag, what they call swag nowadays. The gods, that's one thing. Man, in the 70s, with those Caesar haircuts, and the quarter field, and the mock nets, and whatever those shoes, what are those shoes? Oh my God. The gods. Yes, the gods had swag. They really did. And for that, I used to look at them and say, boy, they could dress, they look good. And they just were so neat. So then I was paying attention, and it sounded like scientists. So now they're making me want to actually look into that. And so now I'm like, okay. When I start to hear all of this, and it's referencing knowledge of self and black people being the original people, and it just ignited something in me, because I was always a militant. From the time I was like 13, I was a militant. Because at that time, when you growing up in the 60s and you're watching black people with dogs being set on them and hoses, when I would be at the table doing my homework or eating dinner, it was either the Vietnam War, where you heard the tally of how many were dead that day, or you were seeing black people in the South being hosed and German shepherds being set on them. You were hearing about lynching, and that always, that is just something that just really, it made me just very militant. And I just wanted to be an Angela Davis, who I thought was a Black Panther, but she wasn't. She was a communist.
Exactly.
But she was an associate of the Black Panther Party, and she would be at their event. But I wanted to be a Black Panther. I wanted to wear afro. I wanted to cut my hair and wear an afro. I had a button just said, say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. And, you know, and my family was so not, so not all of that. My mother didn't want me to wear cornrows, you know, she wasn't, and to me, when I got knowledge of self, I just used to look at her like, she is just the most ignorant Negro. I just used to look at my mother like, she is just ignorant. But I was respectful. Cold, respectful of her parents, respectful. At home, I would not even talk to food. And when I tell you it was more, when I did get knowledge of self, it was more than that. It was like I was now
The black sheep.
yes, and it was like the only comfort I had was when I actually was around the earth. You know, the gods too. But my family was like, and even here's my mother. You're in that nation. You know they killed Malcolm. I said, Mom, I think you have the wrong nation. I said, but anyway, since when have you cared about Malcolm? The only thing you ever cared about with the Nation of Islam was buying the fish. She would buy fish from the brothers. When the brothers would come to the door selling fish, she wasn't buying that Muhammad's fish. She wasn't buying bean pies, but she was buying that fish. Because she said the fish is good and it's clean. That she would buy. But you're talking Malcolm like you have a concern about Malcolm. You don't care about that, you just want something to say. But at that time too, the Daily News had run an article that the 5% was a gang. They were a militant offshoot of the Nation of Islam. And they were a gang. And so she's thinking that I'm now a part of the cult, a gang. You know, because back then you heard about all of those cults also. There were a lot of that the white people were joining. And she just